great to meet you, Mark. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great meeting you as well.
So let's begin our journey into your work by asking this. And I always start out with this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing all of our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
I got through that era by writing a book, which is quite the pandemic project, I know, but
Yeah.
it was one of those ideas that was sitting inside of me that was bubbling up a little bit, but I obviously didn't have time because writing a book takes a long time. And then the pandemic hit, and suddenly my work travel, which was really frequent at that point, moved to Zoom, and the world kind of came to a stop and hit the pause button. So I realized now was a great opportunity. And I shifted the idea for the book to be obviously pandemic focused because that was all anyone could think or talk about. And the best part of the book was when I started interviewing people. And I really didn't intend the book to end up being full of interviews. I ended up interviewing more than 100 people. I started with one, and the engagement, the connection during that time was just so meaningful to me, and I could tell to the other people. I just kept going. And so I spent a year just talking to people about how they balanced work and life and how they were going to try to find work-life balance and happiness and harmony in this post-pandemic world, and just tried to gather all the best learnings from other people and put it together. So that was, as I look back, a really great way to take advantage of the challenge and opportunity that the pandemic brought.
You see a lot of viral clips out there of real high powered business minds that just absolutely dismiss work life balance. It's a myth, it doesn't exist, it's not a part of it. So I'm curious, with you going in, kind of with the fresh mind asking people that question, what was your philosophy before and what is it now?
The best way to think about it for me is it is a balance, but it doesn't mean it's always even.
Yeah.
It, the metaphor I love to use is if you were standing on the middle of a seesaw and you went to the left for a little bit, then you went to the right for a little bit. It's that experience that I see people balancing that brings success because work is like it's a performance. So, as an executive coach, I help really busy professionals not only execute, not only perform, but also do the heavy work that means recharging, means recovery, means working on yourself, or as Stephen Covey would say, sharpening the saw. All of that goes into work-life balance in some way and keeps you grounded and keeps you focused and keeps you fulfilled. And a lot of research came out, through the pandemic and since finding that the best way to address burnout in anyone is to help them reconnect to the meaning of their work. And so whether that means taking more meetings off your calendar or doing something different with how you spend your time depends, case by case. But at the end of the day, we all just want to know that our time is being spent on something that matters to us.
So let's get into what you do on a daily basis, along with writing the book and coaching and AI. I want to kind of break it down a little bit. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day. One of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer them?
Well, I'm a coach, and I would answer a 12-year-old by saying, just like a football team has a coach that is on the sidelines, watching the game, observing how it's playing out, and the quarterback can call timeout, and the game stops, and they come over and they confer with the coach, and they talk about what they're seeing, where they see the challenges, where they see the opportunities, and then they go back on the field and play the game again. And so I help people in business do that. So not in sports, although I do also coach eighth grade basketball. So the sports actually happen as well for me.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of forms these days outside of just that timeout with one individual, because I have started to do more AI focused work as I've seen clients and companies really trying to grapple with what do we do with all this new technology. And so I've developed some AI workshops that I will do for clients or groups just to get people on board. Because what I really feel like right now, most people are doing is they're not on the highway yet. They're kind of sitting on the on-ramp down at the bottom of the hill and wondering like, when do I drive up there and start going at that speed? So I'm really just trying to help people onboard into a different mindset around AI and new technology and just start thinking about how they can use it to become better humans. I don't tend to want to do a lot of software training necessarily, but I do show people practical ways to use some of these new tools to again make them better at what they want to do with their life and their work.
So, what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
I'm sure I would have told you I wanted to be a football player or a basketball player at that point. And then when a few years later, the talent and the size weren't coming my way as I hoped they would, I actually then wanted to be a coach. So when I went to college, my career idea at that point was to become a high school football coach. And I did not do that. I went into sports writing, then ended up running internet for newspapers and TV stations. And so focused on media for a big chunk of my career, and then became a consultant, started working on leadership development, and now I'm here back to coaching. So it's a weird full circle thing, but there is a through line looking backwards, as I think a lot of people experience in their careers. It's a squiggly line as you're going through it, but then you turn around and look backwards and you're like, oh, yep, I see how that all
Yep.
puts together.
Makes all sense. So, sports embodies the best of what we think about coaching. There's so many power, John Woodens and Madden and all of those guys. Especially as a sports writer and a sports mind, who was that coach for you that you looked at that had it all?
Wooden definitely comes to mind. I just feel like he was so ahead of his time. I mean, if you think about the principles of success that he wrote about in his book 50 years ago, it is that full approach to life and success that is so popular now. And at the time, it was revolutionary because really at that point, a coach was only expected to just win basketball games. But he was already teaching his athletes about friendship, about commitment, about community, about all of the elements that make a really successful, fulfilling life. And I feel like that's what I've learned in executive coaching, that it was surprising to me when I first came to it and started getting the training. I assumed it was just going to be about strategy and accountability and, really tactical executive functioning. But it's that plus, just like John Wooden was teaching basketball plus to his players. As an executive coach, you really want to help your clients not only succeed in the boardroom and with the goals that they're trying to drive with their organization, but they have to be fulfilled, they have to be challenged, they have to be growing as individuals to create that momentum for everyone around them, both at work and at home. And when you have that complete energy towards growth and towards success and towards fulfillment, that's when the best things happen. And that's when people feel the best about where they are in their life.
So, as you mentioned, when you look at your life and how you've evolved to this place that makes sense for you, the zigzag line, who was that inspirational force, that hero in your life that allowed you to find yourself, to find where you belong?
That's a really good question. I would have to give credit to a woman named Jan Schaefer who saw something that I didn't. And often we talk about things hiding in plain sight. And I was running an internet news department for a newspaper in Tacoma, Washington back in the mid 2000s. And I was teaching some classes to reporters and editors at the newspaper about the internet because it was new and we were trying to figure that out. And she, over lunch one day, said, I think you should write a book about this. And I never had considered writing a book, let alone something about something as fast moving as internet technology. But long story short, she was at a foundation in Washington, D.C. She got a Knight Foundation grant for it. And I wrote a book called Journalism 2.0. The Knight Foundation saw how desperately journalists needed to get this information and start embracing the internet. So they made it available as a free PDF, and it was downloaded 200,000 times and opened doors for me to speak in places all over the world, like China and Dubai and Azerbaijan and Ukraine. And so that changed my whole career just because all of a sudden I was in these different conversations and had these opportunities to coach and teach, again, the same thing I've been doing apparently my whole life, just in different ways. But that really opened my mind up to what the possibilities were for trying to make the impact I wanted to make.
So I'm going to tap into the sports part of you, and I'm going to ask you this: if you could have one dream interview right now with the sports personality that might help you in your coaching and the way that your career has evolved to this point, who would you love to sit down with and talk to and kind of get into their mind?
Can I have two? And they're on the
Yo,
same
please.
team.
Yes.
So I would want Steve Kerr and Steph Curry.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because Steph Curry, I believe, embodies the work ethic and the preparation and everything that you don't see. He has spent countless hours training and practicing, and his, workouts are legendary and they're all over YouTube. And I think that that's one of the most important things that I'm trying to teach this group of eighth graders that I'm coaching basketball right now is that it's not about the highlights that you end up seeing on the internet. It's the 99% of the time that that athlete was not on the internet and in the gym working hard at what they needed to do for the game. And it's that kind of preparation and that kind of work on yourself that is so inspiring to me, and certainly something I'm trying to inspire in everyone that I work with. And I think, Coach Steve Kerr, I'm going to want to talk to him both about playing with Michael Jordan, but also coaching these athletes and these egos and these celebrities now. And how do you balance that? How do you tap into the motivation for these millionaire players? And how do you get them to play together as a team? I just think that's so fascinating to me, is to just that human element with millionaires in a sport that should be played by boys, right? Versus, that's really what I am fascinated by in my job every day, is like it's the human element of at work. It's like, how can the human work together to produce this outcome that they have stated they want, right? And it always comes back to, how do these humans work together, and how are they working on themselves individually to get better, to grow, and to take the next step forward.
There was a viral clip I saw a few weeks ago of Steph Curry, and I think it was his high school teacher or middle school teacher. And he, without Steph knowing, he went to the game and he's coming out. He's this big, huge superstar guy, and he starts waving, and you just see everything, and Steph just become 13 again. Like he just was like, ah, man, his body language changed. He became loose. He hugged him, and he was doing this. And when I'm hearing you talk about these coaches doing this, I think somewhere in the psychology of athletes, they're always a kid. They've never escaped. They're not in a suit. They're not in a different incarnation. There's a psychology. There's a template that will always be a child. And I think that when those coaches are there, they have to be good at that. Like Phil Jackson, for instance. I think there was a part of him that was genius at being able to go all the way to the marrow of those human beings and find that child and then do it and get in there. And once that trust is established, then you're kind of like a parent, you know,
Absolutely.
to a certain degree.
I honestly believe there's a kid in all of us, whether you're
Yeah,
an athlete or
true,
not.
true.
One of my favorite books on leadership is called Everybody Matters, and the author talks about the fortune to play the game of business every day. And in his company, they have a mantra, thank God it's Monday, because they get to come back and they get the opportunity to play the game of business. And if you can approach work and Zoom meetings and travel and everything else that goes with corporate life in that way, you're going to be so much better off in terms of performance,
Yep.
in terms of managing, in terms of leading. And it really does make a huge difference if you can still retain some of that youthful spirit, that youthful energy as you approach what feels like very heavy issues every day in your job.
So you touched on your book a little bit, but give me kind of an overview, a synopsis, a Twitter look inside for everyone out there to get the book.
Yeah, it's called The Butterfly Impact, Resilience, Resets, and Ripples. And I really believe that if you can take care of your growth and your well-being, then you become this ripple effect on everyone around you. And so what I did was interview more than 100 people on how they take care of a certain part of the work-life balance challenge. And there's a bunch, there's like 25 chapters, so I covered a lot of ground. It's very broad, not as deep into any one of them. I'm not a researcher, so I'm a journalist by trade. So I did journalism. I interviewed people and I did research. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's meant to be helpful for anyone who's struggling with trying to figure out, how do I deal with that difficult coworker? How do I deal with, not having enough time to focus on some of the things that bring me joy in my life? How do I deal with any of the other potential issues that might face somebody who's really busy but driven? And I think it's really important to distinguish between the people who are just flat out busy and don't really have that desire to make a change or to get better or grow. Because I've worked with a lot of those people too. It's the people who are busy and know that they are good enough, that they're capable of actually getting a better handle on their busyness, making the most of their time, and becoming better versions of themselves along the way. And so that's really the work that, with that book, that propelled me to become an executive coach, honestly, because I was just so inspired by all the people that I talked to who really had that in them, that drive to say, what am I capable of here when it comes to balancing this awesome job, which I love, this awesome home life or family or partnership that I love, but I don't want to struggle with it. Like, I want to succeed with it. I want to feel some ease as I'm succeeding at work and at home. And so those are the people I'm drawn to and the people I'm fortunate enough to work with today. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that book. And I wouldn't have written that book if I had not written the first book in 2007, thanks to Jan Schaefer.
So, speaking of books, let's say you have a dream tonight and you have a big, huge coffee table book in your hands and it's your life so far. And you give it to that young version of you and you're like, this is how your life turned out so far. Would that young version of you believe it?
No, no, no. My parents often tell me, and actually, it's funny you say that because my mom made that book for me. I call it the Book of Mark, but for Christmas a couple years ago, she took like almost an entire year and found all the photos in the shoe boxes in the attic and put them into a photo album. So I do actually have a book of
That's
life in
cool.
some ways. But no, they were commenting on my latest Substack newsletter last week, and my mom said to me, "You just continue to amaze us because we never could have imagined that you would do any of the things that you've done." And I feel the same way. And it just reminds me of that famous quote, who I can't remember who said it, but it's something about, if you clearly see the path of your life and your future, that's not your path, that you create your path one step at a time every day.
Yep.
And that's what I've done. And looking back, it kind of, like I said, makes sense because you could draw a through line there. But for the most part, I just am honestly surprised every day with what I get to do. And I have no idea what next year is going to bring, but I'm really excited to find out.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's say you walk into a room of everybody that's known you in a business sense throughout your life, clients and colleagues and everybody, and you walk and swim through that room of people and you go to a podium and you can tell them one fun story about you. Maybe the first concert you went to, a wonderful sporting event, a seminal interview with an athlete, or a breakthrough with a client, or jumping out of an airplane, a wonderful place you traveled to. I can go on, but a fun story that's going to humanize you to this group. What are you going to tell that room?
Wow, that is a really interesting and awesome question. I would have to go recent because I think that I've had a couple things happen this year that were really interesting. One of them was a trip to Serbia that I took in January. And the moment, I mean, this was a week after the Trump administration had come back in office and the Elon Musk Doge situation was happening. And the day that I landed, or it was the day after, I went and met, get picked up in this car at the hotel. I go to the embassy, you go through all the security, and then have the person who invited me and planned this whole trip for me to come speak to media companies over there for the entire week. I was supposed to do like 12 sessions over 5 days. He says, we might have to pull the plug on this like in an hour because of everything that's happening. And oh, by the way, the prime minister of Serbia just resigned. So the news organizations you're talking to are going to be a little distracted. And so it was just that moment in time where you realize that, okay, everything that you can plan for, you can book flights, you can book hotels, you can book conference rooms. None of that actually matters in the end because everything can be pulled out from under you at any moment.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I did not have to pull the plug and come back home right away. I was able to do most of the sessions. And I think it was just an experience of connecting with people in a world that I think most people would agree feels just more ambiguous, more uncertain than ever. And all you have every day is what's in front of you. And so, as the Stoics would tell us, you have to do what you can with what you have where you are. And the ability to do that in a country I'd never visited before, in a way that I felt like was really empowering to the people that I ended up then presenting to and getting to know and having meetings with. It turned out to be a really wonderful week over there, learning so much about that culture and the different media ecosystem that they live in. But honestly, on Monday of that week, I felt like it wasn't going to happen. So I think that just really sort of illustrates how many of us, and certainly from my perspective, are going through life right now. It just feels so uncertain, but you kind of have to just adopt this positive mindset that it's going to work out and I will make what I can happen the best I can. And after that, the chips will fall where they fall.
Wow, what an amazing story. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done, everything you've seen, accomplished, been through at this point, what are you the proudest of?
I mean, I might be a predictable answer, but my kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
they've they haven't taken a straight line path to launching. They're 22 and 25,
Yeah.
and they've both gone through some challenges, and didn't realize this was going to come up. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's meant a lot to me to see them grow and see them stand on their own 2 feet, and it's not as easy as it was for me. It's
Yeah.
not as easy as it is for a lot of people. Not everybody has that same paved path. And even if there is a paved path, well, some people don't take it. So they're their own people. And I love them to death. And yeah, that's what I guess I'm the most proud of.
My son just graduated Friday. He's 21. He's on the spectrum. So I feel that emotion. And I feel like these kids today, like there's so many things that are scary about this world. Just an example of what you talked about. Who would have ever thought that one administration could create the amount of chaos and ripples that's ripped through the world in all these ways?
Right.
I would have never imagined that all of this would ripple into an American in Serbia trying to just do good for people. That's mind blowing, right? And then you
Yeah.
take your kids and my kids and all of these other kids in the world right now that are dealing with this future and with what's going on and the uncertainty. It's a lot, man. And it really means that we have to parent hard. We have to love unconditionally, you know. So, um, so at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your
Yeah.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
My perception of me would be that I'm just trying to be a genuine, grounded, authentic human in the world, helping people with what I can, where I can, and having fun while I'm doing it. I feel like um, the goal of work-life balance, if you want to call it that, sounds maybe too trite, but to be honest, something I ask my clients often, and these are very busy executives with ridiculous schedules, but it's, are you enjoying life? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. And there's so many elements that go into that equation, and the idea of sorting them out and arranging them in a way that allows you to enjoy your life. That's, I think, where I end with probably the perception that a lot of people that know me have, but also the one I have for myself is he's someone who enjoys life and not from like a slacker mentality of, not working hard. He works hard, he's focused, he's driven, but he, at the end of the day, he's someone who really enjoys life and all the people around him.
So I'm going to come back to the sports writer piece, and I do this because I was a sports writer. That's how my journalistic world began, and I love that
Okay.
world. And it all began, my only piece of resume material when I got hired by the University News at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, was a letter I wrote to the Kansas City Star about Dwight Gooden, about people finding forgiveness in his timeline, his arc, and finding a level of empathy. So I ask you this, my setup to this is this. What would be the dream game, the dream one game that you could go to? Mine would be to see Bill Buckner and that ball go under his leg and watch the 86 Mets go into euphoria. But what would that game, if you could go back and be in that crowd, where would you go?
Wow, that is a really interesting question. I would probably go back to the Louisiana Superdome in 1982 and watch Michael Jordan hit the game-winning shot for North
Ah,
Carolina.
wow, dude, that what a great answer. I've never heard that. It's always game 5 or 6. What was that one with, was it Utah? Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Where he did the
yeah,
kind of the same thing. But that was when the chlorides were the strongest in Jordan because he was on the bench, he came in. That was the
yeah.
beginning of the
That
dynasty.
was the beginning. Yeah,
And I forgot it was in such a big venue. I mean, that at that time, the Superdome, I mean, that was
yeah.
like that was the king of the hill. So if anyone wants to pick up a copy of your book, they want to hire you, they have questions, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
MarkBriggs.org has links to my work and my book. The book is on Amazon as well. And I'm on LinkedIn and I share, insights and experiences there as well. Um, so yeah, any of those, plus my Substack newsletter is linked to my website as well. So
Okay. I will put all these links in the show notes. What a wonderful interview. Mark, thank you, sir. Thank
yeah,
you for your stories. Thank you for your time, the light you're putting in the world. I appreciate it.
yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Really insightful questions, and I appreciate you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate it.